All right, folks, welcome in to Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at Superbook Sports. I'm your host, Ryan Blackburn, at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network, and I am excited. Let me just mute this over here because I forget to do that every time when this changes. Really appreciate everybody for hopping in, and we've got a very special episode for you today. My guy Swipa in the house. We are excited on this one. Weekends with Swipa is back, and we are ready to go here. Should be a good day. Excited for you, my guy. How's it going this day?
Doing all right, bro. Just over here enjoying the day. Trying to make the most of it, bro. You know, blessed to be here.
Blessed to be here for sure. We got a good time going in. For Weekends with Swipa, the first episode of the season, everybody. Swipa is going to be back with us here at Mile High Sports. We're going to be doing a weekend episode every single week for you guys. Going to be a good time. Usually, I went through the schedule and tried to figure out what made sense for us. It'll probably mostly go on Saturdays, but there will be some Sunday episodes in there for sure. And we can we'll cross that bridge when we come to it based off of the actual schedule. But we had so much success with this last year, dude. We might as well run it back. And I'm excited to be doing this again with you.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. It's definitely going to be an interesting year. A lot of different stuff that's on the horizon. I feel like I'm a little higher on some players than Ryan Blackburn is, but we'll find out.
You know, we're definitely a little bit at odds in terms of some of the guys, in terms of some of the names that are dropping for sure. But the good news is that like the Nuggets have enough guys on their roster that we can each have our own guys. We can each have different players that we can stand within the actual regular season rotation, and we'll see what happens by the playoffs. But the premise of this episode, make sure to go follow Swipa, make sure to go follow me. Premise of this episode is to do the ultimate season preview, and I have 10 questions that I have not shared with Swipa yet. He's done all of these questions before, or variations of these questions on his other platforms as well, whether it's the SwipaCam YouTube channel or now Locked On Nuggets. Congratulations on that, my friend. But we've got so many different things that we could get into here, and I think the best thing to do starting is talk about Nikola Jokić. What does Nikola Jokić have in store for us this season? Because it seems like he brings something new every single year, and I'm curious what you think the new thing will be this time around.
Yeah, I had a little bit of this conversation with Adam on the Locked On podcast a little bit, but I think for me, it feels like Joker is in a little bit different place than he was in previous preseason. He had 15 shots he shot during the last game, 25 points, 14 rebounds, 8 assists to steal, 3 of 6 from 3. And I think he was 6 of 9 from 2 as well by being 4 or 5 from the line. That equals a 72.67% true shooting. So I think if a player of his caliber is more aggressive in the following season and then in the following preseason, and then seems to have an idea. And, bro, I don't know if you've been keeping up with these little NBA.com specials that are coming out about the Denver Nuggets.
But I haven't. That's one thing that with the release of my own pod this week that it's gone completely over my head.
Right. So he had a very interesting quote over the course of the interview that came out exclusive, I think, for NBA.com. And he basically said, I don't listen to people. He said I don't listen to people in general in terms of, I think, talking about criticism or media members. But what he said was, I definitely don't listen to people that have never picked up the basketball before or averaged less than 5 points a game. They've never understood what it felt like to play in front of a crowd. They never felt that pressure before. And I was like, ball don't stop Joker out of the middle of nowhere.
What are we even covering this for? Like, what are we even doing now?
I mean, look, hey, speak for yourself. I averaged more than 5 points a game in high school, so I can speak. I feel like I can speak to this or whatever else, you know. But I will say is that I think this is an interesting turn for Joker. I don't think it's an obviously it's not like an arrogance thing, but it's just look. I think he knows he's the baddest man on the planet. And when you know you're the baddest man on the planet and you at the apex of your powers, I don't know, but and you know can't nobody do nothing about it. That's the thing. Like, you can't do nothing about it. You ain't gonna stop me. And then if you try to stop me, I'm here from over the head, Larry Bird, 1986 shot right over your head, Anthony Davis.
It's so funny, man. Like he continues to evolve before our eyes, and the giddy, happy to be here version of Joker is gone. And I think it's been replaced by that killer that I know you and Adam talked about this before, but he really is a killer, and he
Mm-hmm.
has carried himself that way. I thought it was funny. The one of the possessions that stood out to me in the last preseason game was when when they went zone out of the timeout
Yeah.
and he picks off the pass because he reads it perfectly. How many times have you ever seen Jokić pick off a pass on defense like that before? It's just he usually tips it, he usually reaches out and grabs it. This dude, like he completely engulfed the pass and then ran the fast break and lobbed it up to AG.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he is, I think, at a different level of focus and intensity and want to this year, which is insane because I know he's had to deal with a lot of pressure over the course of these last few years. But it seems like as the pressure has ratcheted up, he has responded in kind. And that's what killers do. That's what the greatest do.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that Joker was. I think there was a lot of stuff he revealed last year, even in the comments to Vic Lombardi, the great Vic Lombardi, Mr. Colorado himself, when he said that of the stat padding contracts comments when he got the 100 triple doubles, he said, "Yeah, not bad for a stat padder. It's easy to get 100 triple doubles when you stat pad." And it's like he heard all that stuff, and I know he never addressed it. It's really hard to address, to be honest with you. The comments were so ludicrous and put you in such a weird situation. He never addressed the white boy comments from Kendrick Perkins. But I mean, at that point, I think it legitimately everybody has said, I think he just gave the MVP award up at that point. I think a player that's at the apex of his powers, and then on top of that, I know, look, we can say it's nothing, and ESPN is doing clickbait stuff. But if there was an article that came out, they did a player ranking, Ryan, in 1991, in the summer of 91, going into the 91-92 season, and you're sitting here telling me you got Charles Barkley or Magic Johnson at the age that he was as the number one player in the world over Michael Jordan, then I'm feeling away. And Joker just averaged 30, 13, and 10 on 63% true shooting, 16 and 4 record, 30, 14, and 7 versus the Miami Heat that Giannis got 4-1 by, that ran through the Boston Celtics. 5 games. And you telling me that I'm the second best player in the world. All right. This sounds like it might be his Kobe season where he's just like, look, y'all can't do nothing about it, and I'm gonna do whatever I want any given night, and I'm gonna go with a championship.
Hey, man, if he can do that, then I mean, nobody can say anything about him anymore. And I know that he doesn't really care about that stuff. He doesn't really listen to that stuff, but it is kind of
Does he
cool.
not care, or is it that it's not at the forefront of his conversation? 'Cause I think he does care a little bit based on what he said and communicated. Even he even said, he admitted it, like, you got to be a fanatic. You got to be a fanatic to be good at the game.
Yeah,
And so I think he's a little obsessive about it. I just think that it's just not as industrialized as other players' obsession.
it's very possible, and we'll find out over the course of this year. But it is very cool to be
Would
able
you?
to
Would you? Oh, by
see.
the way, would you say some people wouldn't think that you're obsessive? Ryan Blackburn, the great Ryan Blackburn, great voice, great hair, and great mind. People don't realize behind the scene, Ryan is a savage. He is a savage. He doesn't talk about it, but that man puts in work behind the scenes. He is trying to make miracle happen behind the scene. Would you say that Ryan's not obsessive about his job? Oh, I know. I'm not, and I don't let Ryan creep up on me. I don't call me Anthony Davis. You ain't sneaking up on me, Ryan Blackburn.
Man, I appreciate it. No, it's been especially with the release of the show. This has been like people don't realize how much work it takes in to get 30 YouTube videos out in 6
Right,
days.
right.
It's
That
it's
sounds insane.
been it's been wild. So, and then like the audio side of things too. But hey, we ain't here to talk about me, but I appreciate the compliment. Thank you for
Oh,
that.
what did you launch? What is this podcast called, Ryan?
Oh, well, I'm glad you asked. It's called The Alley Oop with Ryan Blackburn. and it is a national or it's a national podcast that is both on the YouTube and audio sides, audio platforms. And it's thank you for setting me up, by the way. No, it's been a wonder to release it. And Dane Moore, Tony Jones, Caitlin Cooper, Danny Meringue, like you name names. Ty Windish is on this thing. There are so many awesome people that are associated with this show, and it is going to be a look around show for every team in the NBA, and no team is going to feel left out in this show. That's my goal with this. No fan is going to be left out with this show. So it's going to be fun, going to be interesting to see how it's received, but it's been received pretty well so far, and I really do appreciate all the love. So thank you, my guy. Nice natural plug there for sure.
No, I'm proud of you, bro. I'm excited for you too.
It's going to be fun. Thank you, dude. Let's chat about Jamal Murray before we hit another break, or before we hit a break. Can Jamal Murray prop up these bench units? Because I think that's one thing that we have noticed over the course of his career, over the course of the Nuggets kind of tenure, that Jokić is going to run those first and third quarters basically. But then it's beginning of that fourth quarter that Denver is at their most vulnerable. And over the course of Jamal's kind of healthy tenure, as he's grown into himself, he has developed as the stagger option for the Nuggets, where he leads those units a lot of times. Can he do it this year? Because without Bruce Brown and with some changes to that second unit, it's a lot more unsettled this time around.
Yeah, I think this is one of the interesting things is I feel like Jamal, I think people have this conversation about like, look at Jamal's numbers without Joker. And I'm like, well, to be fair, like these defensively slanted, backup options. Like now, if it's him and Aaron Gordon in the playoffs, like that's why the bench was like palpable. Like it wasn't like the non-Joker minutes. It was just the non-Joker, but it was being supported by Jamal, sometimes Michael, and also Aaron Gordon lifting up these lineups. So I do think that Jamal Murray can be better this year because I think he's going to be hunting the important shots a little bit more. I think his free throw rate can be better when Joker's off the court. I think that his playmaking can still be at a high level when Joker's off the court. And I also think his three-pointer, like that 3-point shot, like, I think the last 57 games or so, Ryan, last year, I think he averaged 8 3-point shots a game, and he shot 41% on them. I think when you're with the bench, you got to excel. Like, you got to get to the rim and get foul calls, and then you got to take good quality 3-point shots. So that's for sure what I'm thinking about is like, how do you get access to some of that stuff where don't take a lot of those now, again, not don't, but it's harder to get good mid-range turnaround attempts up when you have without the best offensive player, outside of Steph Curry, LeBron, Michael, and Magic or something, on the court with you. I think that getting to high quality 3-pointers, getting the high quality looks at the rim, and creating high quality looks at the rim and 3-pointers. But again, what's going to help? It's having Julian Strawther, who I think is a lineup block, by the way. We'll get to that in a little bit. Ooh. I think Julian Strawther is going to be a lineup block. I think that having Christian Brown there, that's 3 players. So how do you feel about that? If Jamal Murray's with Christian Brown, Julian Strawther, and then probably Zeke Naji at the 5, and then you're going to have Peyton, Tyson, and then, Holiday,
Holiday
that are going to be rotating in that spot. Do you think that's a better unit for him to try to carry this year?
I think so. I think one of the things that really stood out about last year's group was the lack of spacing around Jamal, where Bruce Brown, Christian Brown, whether it's Zeke Naji or DeAndre Jordan or Thomas Bryant, and then Jeff Green, like that's not a good spacing group. And
who's the best 3-point shooter there? Jeff Green in the regular season?
Oh no, not like Jeff. Jeff was horrible during the regular season shooting wise. So
I guess Bruce was shooting 40 for a while, then it dropped to
probably
like
Bruce. But like, I mean, especially in the second half, he kind of dropped off too. So I do think that. I think that Julian Strawther would be a big deal to add to that group. And I honestly think that Justin Holiday will be good for that group too. We'll see what happens. Like, I mean, he's not going to play all the time. And I don't think that he should play all the time. But I think that Christian Brown should be an improved 3-point shooter. They've been talking about him up a little bit. And then Zeke Naji, like if he's actually going to break through this year, then he's going to have to attempt a three a game, and he's going to have to be relatively consistent with it. He cannot just be a 6'9" undersized center rolling to the basket all the time. He's got to be
Ryan
able to
Blackburn, Mr. Stats, Mr. Stats
uh,
himself. Didn't remember that. Didn't remember that.
Underselling the man, the myth, the legend, DeAndre Jordan himself. My fault, DJ. But no, it's going to be fascinating. I do think that Strother specifically will be helpful. I mean, the play that comes to mind in the preseason, obviously, is where he rotates up to the top of the key while Jamal is going down the left side of the paint and whips it back up to the top. Like, how many teams can realistically guard that on a consistent basis? I think is a good question. When Jamal is dealing that way and he is seeking out himself, shooting opportunities for himself and his teammates, he is going to be able to prop up a lot of those groups if they have the right spacing.
Yeah, look, I think that look, I'm not gonna hold you. I'm not trying to gas it either because I like to be a little realistic when it comes to young players. I don't expect anything other than up and down play, but I think contributing positively. I think Julian Strother is going to have the best rookie impact among any player the Nuggets have seen since probably Michael. And I mean, like Christian Brown was still a good player. Like you'll hear me say, like Christian was obviously the next best. But remember,
Sure.
Christian by game 2 had once he had that defensive performance versus Jordan Poole and Steph Curry and them. Everyone's like, oh, Christian can play. Okay, got that steal on Jordan Poole, ripped him, went down the court with the English. I was like, okay.
Nice.
You know my position on Christian Brown. He's Alex Caruso with great hair.
Yeah.
I've been consistent on my position about him. But Julian Strother, I actually like the way he dribbles. I like the way he's able to create his own shot. I like his ability to, I want to say, like, he's not a driver, but I think he can get close enough and create enough pressure towards the rim, not at the rim, towards the rim, to get a quality shot himself or to collapse the defense. And I think the fact that he is, Ryan, I'm not going to hold you. I think that the best three-point shooters for the Nuggets this year, maybe the first 42, because, KCP shot 48% for the first, I think, 30 games, and then it was 46 the first, I think it was the first 50 games and going into the All-Star break, basically. I think Michael Porter Jr., KCP, and I'm going to say Jamal and Julian Strother are probably your 4 best shooters. And I don't know if Julian is going to be 4 on that list. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. Well, then obviously you have Jokić, but Jokić I'm sorry, he's just shot 46% from 3 in a playoff run.
I don't even know how to quantify his 3-point shooting. I think I made the prediction during the game on Thursday that he would shoot like 39.8% from 3 this year because he'll be above 40 for the first like 57 games of the year, and then he'll shoot 1 of 15 in March because that's just what he's going to do. But should be fine. Like I think that Jamal. Do you think Jamal makes an All-Star team?
We've already had this conversation, Ryan. You know what my answer is, Ryan. I think he's going to be fighting for the 3rd team. I think Jamal Murray. I'm not going to say make. I think Jamal Murray will make 3rd team All-NBA this year. And I think because his numbers are going to be the best they've ever been, the playmaking can be better than it's ever been. Oh, by the way, Ryan Blackburn, the smart Ryan Blackburn, the intelligent Ryan Blackburn, the wonderful Ryan Blackburn, the guy with the great hair, the guy with the minutes distribution chart that Jamal Murray specifically asked about during media day, by the way. Y'all, did Jamal Murray ask me that question? No, he sure didn't. But guess what he asked? Oh, right. Oh, yeah, the minutes distribution. Nerd, boo. Listen. So, bro, I think that like there's legitimate possibility for him to earn that because I think that like if he's at that 24, 23 and a half, and in the preseason, bro, he's been averaging 25 and 9 in per 36. Like that's a different deal. Now he's not hitting his 3-point shots.
Yeah.
So, and I'm saying this too. It's not just because of like a natural ability. I just think that Jamal Murray is going to be in a situation where he's probably going to have the ball more, even more than he has in the last couple of years. I think that the touch it that Jokić has gotten, I think he had 98 last year, 0.3, and then he averaged 100 the 2 years before. Hey, what if Jokić is down to 95, 94, and then Jamal Murray, his touches are going up because he's just better. Like he's just a better playmaker and creator.
I think it's very possible. And if that does happen, then I think you could sign the check already that he will be an all-star. And I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be. Part of the reason why people argue against him, especially last year, was because in those lineups that he was without Jokić, he wasn't able to prop those up. So that's why I asked the question, because if he's able to do it, then I think this is a shoo-in kind of conversation. So
Right.
should be fascinating. Tell you what, let's take a break. When we come back, we are going to chat about what are we going to chat about? Let's chat about Michael Porter when we get back here. But first, everybody, this podcast, as you know, is brought to you by our good friends over at Superbook Sports. Why would you bet with the big boys this football season when you could instead try your hand at the local book, Superbook Sports? This fall, Superbook Sports is the book next door. They're just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now Superbook will give you the bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use that promo code Mile High. So make sure to bet with the best and use that promo code Mile High this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. We'll be right back on Pickaxe and Roll Weekends with Swipa edition. And we're back. Pickaxe and Roll. Ryan Blackburn here, joined by my guy SwipaCam on this Weekends with Swipa Weekend. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. If you're watching on the YouTube, thank you so much. Make sure to hit that like button down below. Do you like the overlay? Do you guys like the new background that we got going on? I think it looks pretty spiffy. I made this myself with my strong design skills here. Really appreciate all the love. I use Canva on this one. Yeah. I wanted to make sure to plug in that SwipaCam logo. Look at that thing. That thing is spiffy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, a little nice little snazzy thing I made a couple years ago that everybody just kind of attached to. Like, who is this swiping person? All of a sudden, out of this metaphysical place, and now look, I am.
I love it. No, it makes a lot of sense, and I was jealous, so I just made my own podcast with my own name on it. So it's great. All right. Let's chat about Michael Porter. Let's chat about his role. Hasn't played.
Ryan Blackburn t-shirts up, everybody. Ryan Blackburn t-shirts. It's going to be a silhouette with no face. You're just going to have your hair and your beard.
We gotta get one. We gotta get with the pickaxe logo on the left and the alley-oop logo on the right. That'll be spiffy. Are the Nuggets going to increase Michael Porter's role? He didn't play a minute in the preseason, and I think that kind of works against him in this.
No, but he wasn't going to have an expanded role anyway. What's he going to do? Dribble more?
Well, he might stagger with the second unit, and that's one of those things that if he were to do so, then you get some extra opportunities there.
I think the thing though about them is that the most effective two-man game basically with the Nuggets is obviously Jokić and Gordon is great, but that Jokić Porter two-man game is like a howitzer. Like, it's unbelievable how freaking good it is. Even as I pulled this up very quickly because I'm always ready for action, Ryan. Last year, they had when they were on the court together, 1,393 minutes, 126.1 offensive rating, and a plus 15 net rating. 126 offensive rating, a plus 15 net rating. Oh, the true shooting between the two on the court together, 64.4.
That's disgusting.
So you tell me, do you want to separate those minutes? No, he doesn't need to do anything else. That's the thing. Porter, the only thing you could say is he could have more shot attempts. But like, even then, this is the thing, if Michael Porter Jr. had the same offensive output he had in the 2021 year, when he averaged 19 points a game and 7 rebounds, but then he did it with this level of defense that he has now, well, guess what? That Michael Porter Jr. is a borderline all-star player. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I think MPJ is just, he's the most accurate scorer in the history of the Denver Nuggets.
That's crazy to say, given who he's also playing with right now.
He's playing with Joker, Jamal, Alice English, David Thompson, Dan Izzo, all these players. Carmelo Anthony, the most accurate scorer in the history of the sport for the Nuggets is Michael Porter Jr. So I think that this is about maximizing that. That means get him more shot attempts. Yeah, no problem. That's cool. But I'm not going to change his role. If anything, he's a play finisher. He can sometimes be a play starter, but I want Michael Porter Jr. doing what he does best, finishing plays with more efficiency than anybody else on the team.
I think one of the reasons why I ask this question, because if he because he has aspirations, right? He's talked about those. He's talked about wanting to, like, mostly this year, like, get better within his role. But I think he sees himself as having still a long runway in the NBA and wanting to be able to expand his game at some point. Maybe it's not this year, but I do think that because that is kind of in his mind, in the forefront of his mind, it just would not shock me if they decide to go a different direction and try to push him a little bit more, to run some pick and roll with Joker, run some, like, the additional DHO, or maybe staggering with that second group and playing with Murray directly. Like, I think that those guys could definitely benefit from, hey, the play that Julian circled around to the top of the key. You don't think that Mike could do that too? Like, I think having both of those guys would be even crazier. So that's one of the things I'm thinking about, especially as he continues to prove his health. Like, maybe Denver can trust him a little bit more. I think that's one of the reasons why they haven't trusted him as much lately, or like this last year, was because they don't know whether he's going to stay on the floor. But now that he has for a full season, you might as well go for it, right?
Well, yeah, I think too. We saw Michael Porter Jr. look without Jokić. Now with that, remember that Dallas Mavericks game? I think he had 5 points. He scored. Yeah, he had 5 points. I think the last 3 points he had with that game winner off the right wing last year. You probably don't even remember this game. That was the Bones Highland game. Bones Highland had a really good game that game as well. And Porter is just. They have to find his shot because they have just limited his role. Similar to how Julian Strawther was at Gonzaga. Like, Gonzaga told him, you're an all-around scorer, but we don't want you to be that. We want you to be able to be a play finisher as a shooter, and then you can get to the rim when you can. Well, bro, and I said this before, in the Minnesota Timberwolves series, Porter, I think, at least until Game 5, it might have been all the way through Game 5, he was shooting 83% on his drives. Like, he can do it. He can finish. You just got to get him the ball going to the basket, or let him get himself to the basket. So, and Porter, even in the Portland Trailblazers game on December 23rd last year, I watched entirely too much Denver Nuggets game. He even had some really good finishes in that game as well. Like, again, like, he was collapsing the defense and getting there, but a lot of this with Porter is getting him to allow him to play within the offense and doing that. But even that, Porter doesn't hijack the offense. You know who hijacks the offense more than Michael Porter does? Jamal Murray. But it's Jamal Murray, so we don't care. So I think it's just allowing him to get more shot attempts up. It's fine, but I don't think he needs to have a different role because he's perfect. And he's a max player at that role, by the way.
Yeah, and they are perfectly comfortable with what he's doing right now. I'm more looking out for what he wants rather than, and especially when he has been, like, the me guy quote came out, like, when he's been labeled like that, I think you try to appease a guy, like, in some ways, and try to work that in while also blending him into what you're doing. And they've done a masterful job of that already. I just think that they can push him even further because he's so talented. Like, you might as well see what you can get more out of him, in my opinion. But we will see. Let's go to number 4 here. This could be a quick one. Will Aaron Gordon play any backup center this regular season?
No.
I agree. I wanted to throw this out there because, like, think about the way that Denver's bench is constructed right now. It would be nice to have a second front court player there other than Zeke Naji. Peyton Watson, I think, is more of a wing. Aaron Gordon would make sense as kind of a bigger body, but I think you're going to wait until the playoffs.
Sure.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Did you know that Klay Thompson was going to play the 4 times this year?
Yeah, I've actually made fun of the Warriors for doing so.
Do you know that Terrence Mann is playing the 4 this year for the Clippers?
And honestly, that one bothers me because it was labeled that way. But, like, he's going to guard 1s and 2s. Like, they're not having.
Who's guarding the 4?
Kawhi. Or Paul George. Those guys are huge.
Yeah, one of them also has degenerative knees.
Yeah, I mean, but, like, how many 4s are actually like putting that much pressure on you? I think that Klay is even like Klay's coming off of an Achilles tear and an ACL tear.
So
Kawhi
the
has
reason,
also had issues, but he's
the
also
reason,
way bigger anyway.
but the reason I asked is that when you again, Gordon's a freak athlete. He's humongous, but he ain't that big. And when you
Yeah.
have to play center that much and you're that size, I think that's just be entirely too taxing for his body. Doing it for 20 games was a lot. Anthony Davis, the reason he didn't want to play center his whole career was because
Yeah.
he was already injury prone. But then playing the center, at worst, again, at worst in the Western Conference, you're playing versus now Victor Wembanyama, who apparently is the greatest thing of all time. If you saw the Warriors game yesterday,
Also
and
starting
then
at the 4, by the way. Yeah.
right, well, okay,
Yeah.
but Zach Collins and Victor, and then you're playing versus DeAndre Ayton with Blazers, and then you're playing versus Walker Kessler with the Utah Jazz, and then obviously Alperen Şengün and Jock Landale. Those are basically your worst centers and your worst teams in the West. Now you go to the top, you're playing versus Joker, and you're playing versus Anthony Davis, and then you're playing versus Kevon Looney and Draymond Green. That's just entirely too much physicality. So I think that for Aaron, I would just protect him by not asking him to do that. You know what, Zeke Naji, you're perfectly serviceable backup 5 in the regular season, and so is DeAndre Jordan. And honestly, we all know those minutes aren't that important. Everybody makes a big deal about backup center minutes. They don't matter. You know why? Because if you're flush with wings and flush with the superstar level or a star level guard, then you're able to mitigate those minutes. It's really that simple.
It's going to be fascinating because they didn't work on it at all during the regular season, and it just didn't matter. Like it just didn't. Like they were killing it regardless. So maybe they're working on it behind the scenes, and we just didn't really know about it that much. But it is like, I mean, he was fantastic at it and didn't have to change that much in order to make it happen. But I like a playoff lineup of like off the second unit with AG, Jamal, maybe Peyton, I guess, like by that time.
By that time,
Yeah, and then
and
Christian
Julian Strawther
Brown,
and Christian Brown,
and
that would
Julian.
be
Yeah,
lethal.
that
That
would be
would be
great.
lethal.
If they could get to that point, then they have everything that they need with a
I just want
second
you to
unit like
know
that.
I'm going to be pushing 2 agendas again this year. Alex Caruso, Christian Brown one. Obviously, everybody knows that's coming. Peyton Watson, Jaden McDaniels is going to be the next one. So I hope everybody's ready for that. That will be coming.
I'm looking for. Hey, I would love it. I want to see it too. Alex Caruso with great hair. What does that lineup? What does that leap look like for CB?
Look, I mean, again, I know people laugh like, well, they're one of the things Caruso and Christian Brown have in common is that they're white. The same thing with Arvidas Sabonis and Jokic. I don't see it. Like I don't like it. I don't like when people say it. Now, again, if you look at Sabonis in the Olympics, he was a monster. Like he destroyed David Robinson. So I get that. But Jokic ain't like that. He ain't dunking on people and all this other stuff. Arvidas was a different athlete than Joker. Christian Brown legitimately play style looks like Alex Caruso. An on-ball guard, an off-ball guard, on-ball defender, off-ball defender, help defender, zone defender, and rim protector. Alex Caruso is a freak. A freak. I think Christian Brown is a freak. He's one of the most athletic players in this class. The dude has a 40-inch vertical, and he's 6'6". That's huge.
Yeah, it
so
is.
What does the league look like? More efficient offensive player, a marginally better playmaker and creator. And then on top of that, the fact of the matter is that dude, think about what does a smarter defensive version of Christian Brown look like? That's what makes you elite. Figuring out the game of basketball and being an anticipatory. That's a pickaxe and roll word. An anticipatory defender. That's what you need from Christian Brown.
and like I think that's going to be part of it. I think the shooting and the confidence shooting is going to be part of it. There were definitely times last year where he would pass up some looks on the perimeter and decided, I'm gonna drive into the teeth of the defense and try to finish over a guy when he didn't have to do that if he just took the open three. So if he can get to that confident place where he picks and chooses his spots more accurately and he's more anticipatory of the defense and what that's gonna look like, then I think that'll be great. But I'm thinking 25 minutes per game. I'm thinking 10 points per game, 3 rebounds per game, 3 assists per game, basically what Bruce Brown averaged, and seeing whether he could get to that place or not. But we're gonna find out, man. Like I think he's gonna play a ton, and it's too bad that we didn't get to see him this preseason because I would have loved to see what he looked like with that bench unit and with Jamal staggering. But I guess we're gonna have to figure that out on the fly.
Yeah, I'm excited for him, man. I think that he has a really interesting game. and I'm curious to see how he expands on that. But yeah, man, I just think defensively, I think for a couple players, I think him and Aaron Gordon and KCP, but KCP's fine. Like, he doesn't need to change anything. I think maintaining his efficiency. But I think that Aaron Gordon and Christian Brown should be the two players on the roster that are competing for like all defense spots. I think they're that good at defenders.
He's got to improve that steal rate. The steal rate and the block rate, those are the ones that people look at when they're looking at defensive metrics of like, okay, oh wow, your defensive box plus minus was plus 2.5. Why was it that high? Well, it's because you're getting a whole bunch of boards, because you're getting a whole bunch of steals, and because you're getting a whole bunch of blocks.
That's interesting. Who's the player on the Nuggets that has the highest steal rate amongst was top 10 steals amongst all players, and then also was one of the 3 best rebounders in the league that had a very high defensive box plus minus? Everybody said it was gas because of some logical fallacies, and then averaged a less than 0.74 point per possession as a pick and roll defender as a big in the playoff versus the Minnesota Timberwolves, Anthony Edwards, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, the Phoenix Suns, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis with the Lakers, and then Jimmy Butler and Duncan Robinson and Kyle Lowry in the finals. Who could that have been that we were saying was a very good defender, especially in the clutch, and had the number 2 clutch rating in the NBA last year, and then proceeded to be the best clutch team in the NBA finals and playoffs? I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, I guess we'll never know. Number 6, who are the trust guys off the bench this year? This is a group that I think Christian Brown automatically kind of graduates into this tier based off of what he did last season. Michael Malone basically said already, hey, you are going to be the first man off the bench, the 6th man. I'm wondering who joins him this season. And how many guys will there be?
I did this list yesterday, bro. I think right now, Christian Brown, Julian Strawther, Zeke Naji, just because I think that Zeke's played well and I think he's a backup big. And, I think it's going to be Reggie Jackson as of right now. And I think finally it's going to be between Justin Holiday and Peyton Watson. I think those are your rotating 5. And I think Peyton is about development. I think Justin might get the first go. I think Peyton's going to play, though. But Justin might get the first go just because he's like a meh player. Like, he doesn't hurt you, but he's also not a positive either. So I think that's probably going to be the first 5 off the bench.
So I remember we talked a few days ago when we were talking about setting this up, and you talked to me about the idea of there not being a backup point guard because Jamal will stagger and because you could see a playmaking leap from guys like Christian Brown and surprise stuff from Julian Strawther and things like that.
Yeah.
I wonder if that leads Reggie to not be a trust guy. I think he'll play immediately, and I think that Michael Malone is going to try to force feed that a little bit, especially in the early months of the season. But that doesn't make him a trust guy to me. I think that if I had to boil it down, I think that Christian Brown's going to be the only trust guy, because we talked about this with Bruce Brown all of last season, basically. The only guy that you could say in the regular season that actually played consistently and didn't have his minutes kind of yanked around every here and there was Bruce Brown. Sometimes Christian Brown played 5 minutes. Sometimes he played 25 minutes. Sometimes Zeke Naji played 20 minutes off the bench. Sometimes he played 6. And I think you're going to have a lot of that, where sometimes Justin Holiday isn't going to play at all. Sometimes Reggie, he'll play 6 minutes. And if that's the case, then I think that you're probably just going to boil it down to Christian and see if he could handle some extra playmaking responsibility. Maybe try to piece some things together with Julian Strawther. Who knows? Maybe he develops into a trust guy. Maybe Zeke Naji develops into a trust guy. I just don't think they're there yet.
I think personally, Julian Strawther is locked in. The fact that a rookie didn't play in the final preseason game, Ryan, what? And he was perfectly healthy. He's fine. I don't know. They can say whatever they are.
Yeah, DNP rest.
They didn't even need to see him. He averaged 18 on 50, 85 splits.
Something like that. Like, it's disgusting.
What do you mean? He didn't play. They didn't let him play. They let the rookie, the freshman, rest in the last game to show your stuff.
He had shown enough.
You know why?
He had shown everything.
They didn't want. They were like, with him, we need to see more Peyton and Hunter Tyson. That's what they said. So I think he's a trust guy because like there's nobody else that Michael Malone would do that for. They didn't even do that to Porter.
Yeah, that's wild. Like there are certain things that they needed to see from Julian Strawther to like show that he should be there. I think he's going to be there. Denver's not practicing today; they're practicing tomorrow. That's one of the questions that I'm going to ask Michael Malone at practice. Like, is Julian Strawther in that circle of trust for you? Like with what he's done?
You know who's in the
Because
circle of trust with the Denver Nuggets?
who?
Ryan Blackburn.
Hey,
Circle
baby,
of trust guy.
you already know. You already know.
Circle of trust guy.
They know. They know what they know. They know what they know. It's all good. Let's do one more before we hit another break. The Nuggets will dominate the regular season if what? If what happens in your mind?
They show up.
Oh, that's a good one.
I think they had the 29th ranked bench last year in the NBA. Their 5-man unit, according to Cleaning the Glass, which I believe it was, well, again against quality teams that played like 400 plus minutes together. They were 2 behind the Warriors, but then the Warriors, we also know, had a limited sample size because of the injuries, all this other stuff. I think they're going to have the best net rating in basketball again, and they're going to be better this year with another year under their belt. Oh, by the way, no 25-game lag from Jamal Murray.
Yeah,
interesting.
It's a big deal.
Jokić is 28, Murray 26, Porter 25, Aaron Gordon is 28. That's interesting. And then KCP's 30. And then if the bench is not, I said this to Adam the other day, what if the bench isn't 29th? What if the bench is 23rd this year?
It's a big difference. It really is for a team like Denver, where it could make the difference between 2 to 3 wins at least.
And then on top of that, if you just look at their loss profile last year, remember, they lost those games in December. The Jokić came back when he came back from COVID. He came back, they lost to Detroit in Denver. And then they had those losses versus the Spurs at the end of the year, the Rockets at the end of the year. They had the loss to the Bulls at the end of the year, and then the Raptors. That's 5 just whatever losses. Say you flip a couple of those because they care about them. Now what? And then even the 76ers game, remember, they were up 15. And they're going into the end of the third quarter. What if they close that game out like they usually do? That's what I mean. That's 6 losses right there.
Yep.
So you're telling me a team that won 53 games has a better roster, a Jokić that obviously is already like Mamba mentality, fully locked into it. Yeah, I just think that this is a team that they could eat. And I remember Matt Moore, Matt Moore, obviously Action Network, he said he had them winning like 49 games or something like that earlier, like as of a couple of weeks ago. And I just thought that, I told him, I thought that was ludicrous. Like, you just settle.
It is ludicrous. Like,
right.
That's too low of a number.
But he had the Mavericks, like, I think, going like top 2 or 3 or whatever else. So, like, again, I understand the basketball reading the half-court offense with the Mavericks and everything else, but the Nuggets, I think, are going to be a house this year. I think, Ryan, I'm not even kidding you. If they decide to play 75 games this year for real, they're gonna win. They could win 60 games, bro. That's how good
that would. Oh, that's a bold prediction right there. I think so. Here's some of the health numbers for Denver last year. Jokić played 69 games. Murray played 65. KCP played 76. AG played 68. Porter played 62. Bruce Brown played 80. And then Jeff Green played 56. We'll skip Bones Highland. Christian Brown played 76. Vlatko played 60. Zeke played 53. So, like, some of that is at the end, especially is like a rotational choice here or there. But if Denver stays relatively, if they stay in that relatively same area except Jamal's going to play 65 elite games as opposed to 65 meh games at the beginning and then really great at the end. I think that this team should win 55. Like, they should do that. I think that you got to kind of battle against injuries, and Denver obviously is a little bit more. They're a little bit more at risk to that than other teams because of how great their starting group is. If you tamper with that at all, then I think it makes the rest of the group
but
weaker.
I think the thing is they can beat Memphis and the Kings if Porter's down, and they got to put like Julian or Peyton or Hunter or even Justin Holiday there. Like, I'm saying that, like, even then, they're still like that good. But again, this is what I'm saying. Like, Porter, I think people have this thing with Porter. Porter is the difference between you being a really good team and you being the best team in the NBA. That's what Porter is. Porter is the ceiling raiser for this team. Jamal Murray is the ceiling raiser when Jamal Murray, his floor, that 25-5 player, That's about his floor. But Jamal Murray, that 27, 6 and 5, 80% true shooting. Jamal, that's like we're gonna stomp the Lakers out with 53 points of 3/4 span, basically. You know what I mean? That's what takes you over the top. So they don't need that. If they just have average play from all those people together, and then they get the bench to play on a string defensively, I just think people are just like missing a lot, like almost as if they're just, I don't know, like it's fun. Ryan, let me ask you this. I don't mean to. I want to ask you a question.
Are you good? Yeah.
I just feel like when people talk about them, man, like they make the Bruce Brown and Jeff Green losses, which are legitimate, such a big deal. But I'm just like, but what other team that runs through it's like a NBA at 16-4 like that are you concerned about the Warriors losing Sean Livingston, who was a great player, but they still got Steph Curry, Clay, and Dre. What are you talking about? They got Harrison Barnes still on the roster. What do you mean?
It's one of those things that it's wishful thinking for other fan bases mostly, where this has to come back down to earth, right? They won 53 games last year, but it's like, I mean, their net rating wasn't as good as some of these other teams. Like, oh man, Boston and Milwaukee, look at the way that those teams really loaded up. And Phoenix, they just traded for Bradley Beal. We'll get to that in just in a little bit, but I do think that it's more wishful thinking for people rather than logical thinking of like, okay, well, Jokic is still going to play 70 plus games in all likelihood, and then he'll average 33 minutes a night. If that's the case, and if Murray is at an all-star level, then what do you really need? This is the best starting lineup in basketball. Like outside of that, like this is pencil in 50. Like that's what you need to do. And like the actual range of this is let's see how hard we want to go during the regular season, and let's see if we want to make a statement during the regular season. So that's where I think it's at. But tell you what, folks, let's take another break. When we come back, we are going to wrap up by talking about other teams around the league and what Denver's facing next. We will be right back. And we're back. Final segment, Pickaxe and Roll. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Weekends with Swipa edition on this Saturday, now afternoon. Really appreciate everybody for stopping by, and I hope this becomes a mainstay for everybody during the regular season, which is just a few days away. It's actually 3 days away, Swipa. 3 days away for when the season is tipping off. It's moving very quickly. There's been a lot of talk about the Suns. There's been a lot of talk about the Lakers. There's been a lot of talk about the Warriors. Did any of these Western Conference teams improve enough in your eyes to actually challenge the Nuggets?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I don't, I think that like sports is just, you just can't think about it like that. I just think it's everyone. The King can challenge them, so can Memphis. There's no such thing. It's so funny. Even if you get beat by 8 points, that's 4 possessions. 8 points sounds like a lot. Oh, you got a 105-97 victory? Oh, whatever. But like that's what I'm saying. Like it's 4 possessions. And I think even 3, 2 3-pointers and obviously a 2 or whatever. I just think that like they're gonna be better, but they're better because of the margins are better. Like the Suns are gonna be good. Everybody's downplaying Bradley Beal, like, oh, Bradley Beal, look at the last 2 years of his career, I'm like, Bradley Beal's a good player. Like he's an all-star, former all-NBA player. Like, why is somebody so dismissive? Now, is pull-up shooting and a less physical team going to stop the Nuggets? Probably not. Is a Yusuf Nurkic anchored defense that just got demoralized by Anthony Davis in a preseason game going to? Probably not. But that team is still very good. The Lakers, I respect the Lakers. The Lakers are a very good team. They're a very physical team. They're almost as physical as the Nuggets. And they're big. They're just not as big as the Nuggets. So this is what I'm saying. Like, everybody can challenge them. But the Timberwolves challenged the Nuggets. And they won that series 4-1. But I don't think any Nuggets fan or any Nuggets writer like yourself would say that they just ran through that series. Those were good games. And that was a good team they played. So the Nuggets will play, I think, as good as they need to beat you. That's just how they operate. The only team that I saw them just shellax for no reason with no contempt for how they feel was the Clippers when they were 43 points in the second quarter. But
that was awesome.
They don't do that.
That's maybe my favorite game of all time because like, everything went right for the Nuggets that night, and you could just see the Clippers like in the first quarter, just like that we should not have showed up.
And Paul George and PG were there that game too. They were fully healthy that game.
Oh no, I remember Paul George talking about it on his show. He talked about it like the altitude. They just blitzed us, and we had like we got sat down in the second half. They like Ty Lue was like, "You guys are done," which is hilarious. Paul George does great impressions. That's a good podcast. No, I think that the Suns are going to be a better. They might be a better regular season team than the Nuggets this year. They might win more games, and the reason for that is because all their role players really have to do surrounding what their main guys are going to be doing from a consistent basis. All their guys have to do is defend, especially in the regular season. Like Yusuf Nurkic should not be trying to do anything more other than passing and defending. And Grayson Allen should be locked in on the defensive end. And Nasir Little and guys like that. Like that team, I think, is going to challenge Denver for the top of the West. I actually had them in my predictions at 53-29 and Denver at 52-30. I think that the Lakers will be better during the regular season this time around. Obviously, they don't have to kind of massage the problems that they had with Russell Westbrook on their roster, and now their roster is just better than when it was. And there's a lot of teams I think you could make that.
Did you see Anthony Davis in the preseason game versus the Suns?
I didn't.
I'm telling you, I say this right now. If AD plays 65 games, he's probably the DPO wide on a landslide. That dude is incredible, bro. Nurkic tried to challenge him multiple times, and it just was like, what are you doing? Why would you try to lay the ball up there? He kept sending shot back to the sender, and on top of that, the Lakers, what I love about them, what they do, they funnel everything towards this black hole in the middle of their defense with Anthony Davis. So like I said, they're not a joke. The problem is that the Nuggets are the only team that can just tell Anthony Davis, all right, cool, get out of the paint, or you're going to get dotted up.
Yeah, or you're going to have to guard AG, and that causes a whole different list of problems, especially now. Like Denver's not going to be taken by surprise by the Rui Hachimura adjustments like they were for a quarter of this last playoff series.
Oh, man, watch Michael Porter Jr. Let's just put him at the 4 and just end all this right now.
Yeah, exactly. No, like it should not be an issue at all. Number 9. Which Eastern Conference team is the scariest in an NBA final setting?
Oh, man, bro. That's a tough freaking question, bro. Probably Boston. I think the thing me at least, I've seen Dame play. I know exactly what this is the thing. The Nuggets are most familiar with Damian Lillard. We've already know what he does. We've watched Dame since 2012. Everybody in Denver knows who he is. We've seen him from 2014 in that shot over the Houston Rockets all the way through the playoff. We saw him versus the Nuggets. And most people in Colorado are Dame fans. Like, they like Damian Lillard. So I think Boston, just because, like, the unfamiliarity with that city, they're so, like, we never run into Boston. And then we don't have any beef with Boston. Like, we just never had, like, a thought. And we've always had mutual respect for the program. But then the Nuggets also hadn't beat Boston in Boston since, you can look this up, it's been a while since they beat Boston in Boston.
You know, the one game that I can think about where they actually did it, you remember the game that Emmanuel Mudiay had, like,
oh my God,
25 in the first quarter or something like that? Yeah. It was
2015?
Awesome. Yeah. That's the one that's the only one that I can think of. I think they've lost every other matchup.
But again, some of this is just situational. Like, Jokić had 43 points up there, but that was the Facu year. We lost 2 games that year. Not because of Facu Campazzo, but it was Malone with Facu. Because remember, Facu played 17 straight minutes to close that game and 17 straight minutes to close that. You know, the last time the Clippers beat the Nuggets, Facu played 17 straight minutes to close that game. And they started double teaming everybody and Joker off of Facu. What does that mean?
Oh, do you see this thing? Have you seen this thing before?
No, what is that?
This says, join us, Argentinians against Ryan Blackburn. March with us as we bring awareness to issues regarding Facu Campazzo and Facu cynic Ryan Blackburn. I had somebody make that for me. That was
that is hilarious, bro. But
yeah, no.
I think because of Drew Holiday Justin, and not Justin, Drew Holiday, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and then Derek White. They're just going to have a lot of people to throw at Jamal. I don't really KP and Al Horford. They're going to get they're going to get they're going to get demolished by Joker. But that's a given. I think Michael Porter Jr. actually has a good series versus him too, just because of the off-ball spacing. But I think that Jamal having to deal with all those defenders, the good thing is that his true shooting will be down in the finals. But guess what? So will Jason Tatum and Drew Holiday and Jaylen Brown. So that's the offset. Jamal has a 55 true shooting in the NBA Finals, but so did 3 of their other players. Jokić is rising above it with a 64.
Yeah, which is again, it's just another way to set himself apart. No, I think that you've got it right. I think the problem with Milwaukee is, I mean, you can't just solve the Dame Giannis pick and roll. Like, it's going to be way more challenging than that. And it feels like an insolvable problem. But Denver has faced those kinds of problems before, like with the Suns, for example, when everybody was like, I don't know how they're going to guard that team. And then they guarded that team. Like, it's just like, you just don't know how it's going to turn out until you actually do it. I think with Boston, the number of options that they have is the factor. Like, having 6 guys that could match Denver's top 6, I think is like, that's a big deal. And you say that, but like, Derek White is clearly a top 100 player, despite what ESPN would tell you. And
yeah, I think Boston can. I think the difference is Boston just doesn't have, bro. And you know what was sad about last year? Their 6 losses they had in the clutch. Those were mostly because of their defense. They had like a negative 42 net rating, I think, in the clutch last year. Jesus. In the playoffs. Yeah. Like, their offense sank to like a 90 something, and then their defense was like a 130 something. So they just don't have there's just something about them. They just don't have like this great execution or whatever else it might be. And then on top of that too, like, if you're telling me Aaron Gordon and KCP and Christian Brown are going to be able to, that's the thing. If you're saying Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum are your best offensive options, they're very good. But I think the other side of that is sit-down wings are easier for the Nuggets to defend than speedy, very high-caliber point guards, which is Dame and Steph. But the difference is the Milwaukee Bucks cannot, and I repeat, cannot defend the Nuggets. So they're going to try Brook Lopez and Giannis and all that, but that POA is getting destroyed. And if you don't have a Nickeil Alexander-Walker or a Drew Holiday or one of those players, like you saw what happened to the Lakers. The Lakers had a great interior defense, but if you're telling me Jamal Murray's biggest asset is, Jared Vanderbilt, then yeah, you're going to get cooked.
What if the Bucks traded for Nickeil Alexander-Walker tomorrow?
No. What are you saying this to me? No, he's coming to Denver. Stop saying this. I want to hear this.
I'm here to say it because, like, they can find that kind of player that could give Denver not issues, but like make it a little bit more palatable. And then, like you said, with the way that the Bucks are going to score, I think there's a possibility that they're not going to have to slow down Denver all the way. They're just going to have to slow down Denver a little bit to make it competitive.
This will be the second time in 2 years, which the Nuggets, for some reason, didn't listen to Swipa. Remember, Derek White was at the Spurs. Remember they got him for a first-round pick?
Yeah.
And we all were like, Cal.
Yeah. I was like, what is going on? This was the perfect opportunity. And then they got KCP and it didn't matter, but like still.
Well, I'm saying, but Derek White is like Derek White, it was a first-round pick, and I mean, it was for nothing. Like, it was just for nothing. And I think players like that are available for nothing. Jared Vanderbilt, 2 seconds. I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker is one of those players where it's just like, the Heat are going to get him for absolutely nothing. And the next thing you know, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Jimmy Butler, and Bam Adebayo are the best defense of all time. That's one of those kind of players that so if they got something like that, then yeah, I mean, of course. I think Nickeil, a 6'6" combo guard that can D up like that, I think they're incredible.
I think I'm going to say Boston too on this, but I think it's a legitimate debate. I really do. And there are, like, both of those teams are going to be super dangerous, and we're just going to have to find out. But number 10, we got to wrap up with this. Put it on the table right now. Are the Nuggets going to win another championship?
Yes. I got my little season predictions coming out, I think, Monday. And yeah, I think the Denver Nuggets win another title. I think they have the most unsolvable player in the NBA since LeBron James at his apex. And I mean to say that. Like, I think Steph was incredible too, but great offensive player. But I think when the bigger you are and the more unsolvable you are, the more dangerous you are. And I think there's not been a player like this since LeBron at his apex. And before LeBron, I don't think there's another player like this. If you outside of Kobe, you want to say Michael Jordan. I think he's that good. So, you know, you got him on your court, and it's just like, I think when you have a player on your team, Ryan, where it's just like you're conceding a 30-point triple-double on high efficiency, you're conceding that. Like, we're conceding that LeBron can average 35, 10, and 8 in the series. Like, it's just going to happen. Yeah, then, you know, it's just too much. So I think that, yes, I think they will. I think Jamal's going to ascend. I think the bench gets marginally better than it was last year because it has to be. Can't be 29th again. Then on top of it, I think the starters, you know, if they're locked in, I think they're just better than anybody else.
I think there's a lot of different factors that are going to go into this, but I think, like you said, Denver has too many things to work in their favor that other teams don't. The first being is that they do have the best player in the world. Like you said, that is an undeniable factor that more often than not, the best player in the world is going to have a great shot at winning.
Right.
And he's in his prime. The rest of the Nuggets core are in their prime. And
Right.
you put that together and you put all of the things that Denver has been working on, that they will be working on over the course of this regular season. We don't necessarily know the answers to the bench yet. We don't know the answers to the rotations yet, what it's going to look like in full. But what we do know is that the Nuggets have the talent, and that they had the talent last year. It was just about putting it together on both ends of the floor, and they did. Nothing is going to stop them from doing that again this next year. And like we talked about, they've got other matchups in the Western Conference, in the Eastern Conference, that could give them issues at various points. But you still have the best player in the world. You still got the best duo in the world. And you still have this unstoppable offense led by the Joker. And if he can continue that, then they have such an advantage over the rest of the world. And I think it's going to be overwhelming for other teams.
You know what I can't wait for?
What?
They already did it last playoff, but Jamal Murray's so good this year. It's going to be like Kenyon Martin on the. I don't know if you saw the Showtime click on the Gilbert Arenas show, where he said that Kyrie's the best player on that roster over Luka. Which I understand why Hoopers say that. I can genuinely understand why they say that, but I would hope that one day, like sometime this year, Jamal Murray is so good, or just like you're giving Joker all this MVP buzz, but has he even been the best player on his team through the first 50 games of the year? I would love that. That's the reality I want to live in.
That would be fun. Like, hey, Joker's gone for 25, 12, and 10.
Ryan Blackburn.
Joker's gone for 25, 12, and 10. And Jamal's gone for 26 and 7 assists and things like that. And people are like, you know, I mean, we give all this credit to Nikola, but Jamal is really the guy who, like, I can hear that. I can absolutely hear that segment. I could hear the ESPN segment with Kendrick Perkins as well, where he's just like, put some respect on this brother's name. Jamal Murray is the MVP of the Denver Nuggets. And if that's the case, then Giannis Antetokounmpo is the best player in the world. And I can already hear that. It's going to be fascinating. It's going to be funny. But I mean, I have
two major agendas on this team. One is Joker's going to be a top 10 player all time, and Jamal Murray, just as good as I think he is, which is top 15, might not be high enough when it all said and done. So that's cool. That's cool with me. Ryan, you are a Jamal Murray guy too. If it's a conversation where he a top 10 player in the league so far this season, I think Ryan Blackburn will be a very happy man.
Yeah, it's like we go back and forth, and you give me shit because sometimes my takes are not strong enough for Jamal Murray. When in reality, like I'm gonna soak it all in, man. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be fun, and if he is breaking out the way that you think he will, then the Nuggets are going to be unbelievable. And 60 games, 60 wins, and then rolling through the playoffs is a strong possibility as well. So I'm looking forward to it, man. It's gonna be a great year.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. Looking forward to all of it.
Folks, I think that is going to do it for this episode of Weekends with Swipa. Everybody, thank you for tuning into the show. This will be a weekly occurrence from now going forward. Swipa and I are going to be probably going for about 45 minutes to an hour most of these episodes, but the next time that we get to speak, we're going to speak about actual games. We're going to speak about the Denver Nuggets and what they do, of how they handle opening night and ring night, how they handle some of the other stuff coming to them. Going to be a lot of fun. I think on the schedule, let me just pull this up right now. I think I have us going again next Saturday after the Nuggets face the Grizzlies on that Friday night. So should be fun. Should be an awesome season. Swipa, thank you so much for hopping on with me, man. Anything you want to chat about before we head out of here?
No, I'm good, man. I'm excited to be here. We waited 3 long months to get the season back again. So you will have 100 episodes coming from both Ryan and I over the course of the season. So a lot of content to get to. Hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of Ryan and I talking.
There's been a ton of talking for sure. They're not gonna miss it. They're not gonna miss any of this stuff. So everybody, hit that like button on the way out. Go subscribe to SwipaCam's YouTube channel and go subscribe to the Alley Oop with Ryan Blackburn. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We'll talk to you guys very soon.